Hey everybody, how you doing today? It's Thursday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's time for Macro Talk 2. Is everybody well? Who's here? Raise your hand if you're here. Let me see. Graham is here from Canterbury. Lovely, lovely town. Baconmeister is here and has a question. Where can you get 3D glasses when you can't get 3D glasses? Well, the ones that I recommend are the super attractive, ultra stylish model. These are the ones you're telling me you can't find. These are the ones that I recommend in, yeah, see, they're sexy looking. And they are hard to find, and they've been impossible to find for a couple of weeks, and a lot of people have told me that. I am tempted to say, unless you're in a desperate rush, don't get any. Just wait for them to come back around. I'm sure that they will eventually. They always have in the past. But just to be on the safe side, if you decide to get one of the other ones, they're all equally rubbishy. Just make sure you're getting the kind that is for parallel viewing. Somebody in the audience is going to know a better answer than me for that. Yeah, Ingolf, do you know? Lance, David, somebody will know. Just keep looking at the chat. It'll show up there. And if all else fails, I'll ask Rick what he would recommend as a backup if you can't get the boxy ones. But these really do a fantastic job. They do make the view so clear, and yeah, they're good. They don't give me a headache either. So, good evening to Graham from Canterbury. Good, excellent. I'm glad you're here. Glad everything's going well over there. Lance, good evening. And oh, there you go. Lance has already answered Baconmeister's question, even after, even before I asked him to. Yep. Oh no, he hasn't. He's just said they're hard to find. Oh well, misery loves company. I've got a lot of stuff I want to talk about today, so I'm going to get started. I know we're a minute or two early. I'll save the really juicy stuff until after 2 o'clock. But I did want to tell you about a few things that are changing, a few things that are going on, and just some things that we need to get out on the table. And it's all in the context of you and your macro photography. I presume if you're watching this, it's a live stream, and I'm a macro photographer. If you're watching this, you have an interest in macro photography, or you had at one point an interest. If you're here to learn how to make suet puddings, I'll tell you later, but you still need to stay and sit through the macro stuff. My question that I asked on Tuesday and got fantastic answers for, I've been getting answers ever since I brought this up, is, are you happy with your macro photography? Are you content with it? Are you right where you need to be? Are you photographing the things you love? Are your pictures good? Are you getting the satisfaction that you used to get out of it? And if the answer is yes, well, great, fantastic. I'd love for you to tell me what it is that makes it that way for you, what it is that you consider to be a sign of your success in that. But if not, put a note in the chat here and tell me why. I'm going to ask one of the moderators who isn't here, so probably won't happen, but I'll take notes as I go. But I want to hear from you guys. I consider you and my Tuesday evening group and the folks over on Patreon, and I know that that is a lot of the same people, are a core group to me. And it's really, really important that I feel your pulse as we go into a period of radical change at the channel. And I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding what I'm hearing out there, and give you an opportunity to spell it out and make it clear. If you're not happy with your macro, what is getting in the way? Is it becoming too expensive? Or is it boring? Can you not find things to photograph? Or have you photographed every ladybird in your county and you don't know what else to do? Or is it just too difficult? Is it just getting too technical for you? Tell me what it is that's stopping you from enjoying your macro the way you did the first day you decided to pick it up. And yeah, I don't have answers. I'm not going to tell you what to do about it. I am going to absorb the information and put that into the formula to figure out what I'm going to do with all of the changes that are coming your way. Because everything that we're doing to change the channel and is to improve it, it's to expand it, it's to grow it, and it needs to be done in a way that keeps your interests absolutely front and center. If what I'm doing is going to alienate the people that got me this far, then there's no point in even doing it. But we do need to grow so that we can thrive and I can pay for this stuff. The bigger the channel gets, the more it costs to run it. But if you still aren't making any money, that just means that the money you've got goes faster. So this is all about that as well, is finding a way to make it profitable enough to pay the bills. Yeah, that would be the way I'd describe it. So that's neither here nor there. And you won't know that. You won't feel anything any different. You'll just think, wow, this is cool. A one-stop shop where you can kind of get your videos, your articles, your advice, your fellowship with other macro photographers, where you can find out, what equipment that is recommended, what equipment's not recommended, where you can find lists of things that you spend days poring over. What adapters do you need for your enlarger lens? What are the best shops to get specialty lenses from? How do I know which hardware I need to buy for this rig or that rig? All of that stuff, every bit of it is going to be in there, in this place that we're making, and it'll be indexed and it can be found. You can get right to it and get the information you want. One day there may even be courses there, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you any more because I can't. I'm not allowed. I'm sworn to secrecy and I don't know. They don't tell me the details. So all of this is happening and I want to know from you, what is it that would make it better? What is it that is bothering you now? Okay, enough of that. I just caught out the corner of my eye because my chat's over there. I'll move it so that it's a little bit more central. But yeah, somebody was saying something about only having one ear's worth of sound. Well, that was the problem on Tuesday, but I fixed it. You should have 2 ears worth of sound. It's mono though. So if there's a button you have to press to listen to mono, then yeah, press that. But both channels are going bloop, bloop. So you're getting all the sound. You're not getting 50% of the sound. It's not discounted or anything like that. Do you want to see the fancy stuff that is going on in my little studio here? I had a whole team of boffins in here with oscilloscopes and probes. We won't talk about the probes, but they did all kinds of things to fix up the electronic part that had been having some problems with. Things like getting my screen to where you could see the other screen without me having to get lost in doing it. And I'm going to show you what I'm working on in just a minute. But also, if you want to look through the microscope is now hooked up, working. I still can't operate under it, but that's a detail. But it's enough, certainly, to show you some stuff. And yep, that's all working. And then we've just got other cameras doing other things, like that's my hand right there. It's attached to my arm. So yeah, you can see all of that. And it's wonderful. It's so slick. And it works just fantastic. And so that'll be nice. That'll make it a bit easier for you to watch this if I'm not having long periods of silence. Is anybody else only hearing me through one ear? And are you sure you don't have a dead hearing aid battery in the other one? I don't know. I don't know what else I can do because like I say, I thought it was fixed. But anyway, let's see if anybody else brings that up. David in Yorkshire, Ingolf in the Harz Mountains in Germany. Is it snowing there still, Ingolf? I guess it is. And Nils from Norway, minus 16 degrees centigrade. That would be a nice weekend. What are you going to do? Go camping? I don't think so. Mike from Phoenix, Arizona. What? 170 degrees though. That's hot out there, isn't it? And Graham. Hey Graham, how's it going? Did I ever receive the very cheap tweezers? No, did you ever receive? Who ever receive? Did I ever receive the ones for? Oh yes, that's right. I was gonna. Yes, I did. Did anybody follow that? That was complicated. I think I'll use one of the other cameras to show you the tweezers that I'm talking about. I did, Graham, and I will send you a couple of pairs of these. This is the tweezers that I use. They're made not in China, like I said. They're made in India. It says India stainless steel backwards. No, it's not really. It's forwards for me. These things are dirt cheap. They cost a couple of dollars, I think, a pair. You buy them a dozen at a time. And the reason I like them is they are very easy to squeeze together. They're made of soft, cheap steel, so they sharpen with a little bit of sandpaper to a razor sharp point. And they come in all sizes, but I just get these number 11s because they're long and skinny and soft and pointed, and they're absolutely the best insect tweezers I've ever had, and they're cheap. I'll put a link if anybody's interested in the program description, and you can check them out. But there are about 100 different companies that sell them, and they're all the same. They're all made in the same place, I feel quite sure. Here's a tip. I've got all of this stuff's out here because I've got a bunch of tips I'm going to be giving you in just a minute. But how's this for a tip? If you've got one of those sewing machine lights that I like, you can't see it, can you? Because my cord's not long enough. We could switch cameras. Well, let's not push our luck. I'm trying to do it without spilling it. There you go. It's for putting on a sewing machine if you do sewing. It's got a bendy arm and a light on the end. Well, they're great for macro, for your microscope, if you have a way to secure them to your desk. But they've got a magnetic base, see? And nothing secures them, unless you get a big ball bearing like that. You can get one of these for under $100, and anything magnetic will stick to it. It's not a very economical way of doing it, but I'll tell you what, the light it gives is absolutely fantastic. I'll show you. I'm kidding though, of course, about the that's with it and that's without it, so it gives plenty of light. I'm kidding about the price. The ball bearing I got for nothing at the thrift shop, of course, and it weighs about, I don't know, 5 pounds. Doesn't go anywhere. Dead solid. Love that thing. What were we talking about? Tweezers. I made a video once and I never released it. It was how to sharpen tweezers. I thought, I've sunk pretty low if I've done a whole video on how to sharpen tweezers, but I think I might release it now because it's actually quite good. It's got a lot of good details about how to keep your tweezers in tip-top condition. Let me see. What else did I want to tell you about before we get to the glue tips? Oh yeah, I made a mistake in something I said in a video about 90 years ago. You might remember this. I did a comparison of Zerine, Stacker, and Helicon. You know, I'd bought Helicon, I'd been using it for about 3 months, and I did a review. And in part 3, which was, all of you would have been in a coma by then, I think, but it was the third part and it was way into it. I said, and I can't even tell now listening to it if I was joking or if I was just having one of those senior moments, but I told everybody that the price of this, of Zerine, was $189 a month. Well, it's not $189 a month. That would be $2,000 a year or $20,000 in your lifetime. I mean, even Adobe doesn't cost that much. It's $189, period, forever. That's how long it lasts. That's the prosumer edition. And it's less than Helicon, about $2 less, but it is less than if you get the permanent Helicon license. It's 191 or something like that. Anyway, it's not $189 a month. So if you're thinking, oh gee, I'd really like to get that Zerine, it looks like a good stacking program, but I just can't spring for $189 a month. Well, nobody else can either, so don't worry about it. It was a mistake. Consider that error corrected, and if I can find where it was written down, I'll fix it there too. There you go. I can't remember who it was who brought that to my attention, but yeah. No comment. No comment. Let me see. Who else has shown up? So I think I've got the chat on the wrong thing. Who knows? I'll put it on live chat. It looks busier that way. See, Alistair's here. Joseph is here. Joseph, how is Detroit? Still cold? Yeah, it will still be cold for a long, long time. Curious is here. Greetings, Curious. We were just talking about you on Tuesday. Curious Scientist, by the way, is my electronics mentor. And yeah, he is somebody you need to know. Go over to his channel, Curious Scientist, and he'll teach you about, this month, about Peltier coolers. Don't ask me. Ask him. He's here. He'll tell you what that is. It's something that makes things cold. The reason I was talking about Curious on Tuesday was I wanted to show him the little stepper motor that I got donated from Mr. Robert Wester, who thought that seeing as I was building a rail with it, that I might need one that had a linear actuator attached. Get a load of this. That is something else. That is a 0.9 degree stepper motor with a little rotary encoder thing in there, and then a couple of hall sensors on the back for sensing where the rail is. This thing is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's gonna be like a luxury stack shot when I get done. So if you would start writing all the code for me now, Curious, so that I don't have to think about it, that would be great. This thing is just fantastic. It's a closed loop, they call it, because of all the feedback that's going on. Very exciting stuff. Who else is here? Nils still here, still alive, even though it's 16 degrees. That's good. Keep moving around. Don't stop and don't fall asleep outside, whatever you do. So, I'm sorry, the question that Graham asked was, are the tweezers any better than... They're all the same. I've got good ones and bad ones, sometimes in the same batch. You'll get a dozen pairs, 3 of them you'll throw away, 3 of them can be rehabbed, and 6 of them are okay. If you get them and they're too sprung, if they're too difficult to squeeze together, which is very off-putting, then put a rubber band around. Well, let me rummage for a rubber band. If I don't find one, I'll stop. I can't find one. You'll just have to pretend. I've got a rubber band around this. And then I'll double it and double it and double it until it just starts to pinch the tweezers a little bit. And then you can roll it up and down like that to get it just the way you want them. And then they're easy to close. So you can do that. There are all kinds of ways you can fix it. And if the tips are all wonky, just sharpen them. I do it on sandpaper, but you can use anything. I am easily distracted today. I think it's because it feels like spring here. It rained this morning and was miserable. And then the sun came out and it's warm. And I keep remembering that the clocks go back to normal human hours on Sunday. Which means it's going to be a bit dark in the morning, but it's going to be lovely and bright in the afternoons and the evenings, so I can get outside with a camera once every 9 months, which is my current schedule. So yeah, it's lovely. I keep looking outside to make sure it doesn't change its mind and become winter again. But there you have it. So J.A., you're in a soggy tring? I don't know what a tring is, and why don't you just dry it? Or is it a place? Don't know. Don't know what a tring is. Oh, Larry was saying he was listening with one ear, not because the sound was only available to one ear, but because he's at work. There you go. So I had all that excitement about nothing. On Monday or Tuesday, people were listening with one ear, period. They weren't at work. They just didn't have sound coming to the other ear because my thing was broken. But it's fixed now. So it's freezing cold in the north of England, says Hembrodian. I believe that it probably is. Yep. And greetings again, Curious. Rob from Peebles. Yes, we love Peebles here on this channel. Ingolf's got red paint on his hand for some reason. Don't know why that happened, but there you go. Seattle, the Arctic Penguin. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you with us. I was in Seattle at a Camera Club meeting last night. Not in person, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but no, it was virtual. I belong to a camera club in Seattle. I was invited. I didn't just crash it. I was invited. And it's cold and dry in Carlisle, says Alistair, who's known to exaggerate the weather from time to time, but we'll believe him on this one. Microscopy and things. Greetings from the independent state of Yorkshire. Welcome. Yorkshire, eh? I didn't know it was independent. They finally got... Did you have Yorkshire exit? There you go. Microscopy and things. Are you new to this thing that we do here? If so, welcome. I don't recognize your name, but people do change their names around here. And I go around welcoming people I've known for years. But if you're not one of them, welcome. Harold, yes, sir. Can I please share the link to the drawing of the lens hood for the... Yes, yeah. It's not a drawing. It's an STL file. In fact, I put all of the lens hoods for the Mitutoyo objectives over on Discord in the gear section on, Tuesday. So they're right there. If you go over to Discord, if you don't belong to Discord, go to the show notes of this video and there'll be an invitation. Click on it. It'll take you to Discord. And when you get there, look for the room called Gear or something like that. And yeah, go in there and you'll see all of the STL files, which are the 3D printer files, and it'll show you how to make them. That's all you got to do. And that goes for everybody, not just Harold. That's a general rule there. So yeah, if you have any problem, let me know. Hey Phil, how's Cambria? Nice. Well, my brother was telling me, he lives in California, that they were having terrible storms there, which is not characteristic of California weather at this time of year. I hope it's safe where you are. Stuart, how are you, my friend? I do hope your youngster is feeling better. I meant to inquire of that this week, but well, I suppose I just did. But yeah, it was supposed to be earlier. Hope everything's well. Angie, greetings. Are we still on for May, right? May for flowers, the flowers grow in May? I think so. That is going to be, Angie's coming on to judge the flower competition, which is going to be in May. I've decided that the stereo competition is going to be in June. I have also decided that the competition this month, and this has caused a bit of confusion, is it's body parts, but not as in the body parts you might see in a horror movie, say. No, I'm talking about just parts of a human. And it has to be taken with a macro lens. It cannot be rude, okay? It just has to be clever and beautiful or funny and or moving or whatever you want to do. Photograph a body part. I'm not going to give you a list of body parts. You've got a body. Just look at it and pick a part and photograph it, or pick somebody else's part. This is already getting a bit tricky, isn't it? It's body parts, and the name of it is Take Part, which is funny. It's a play on words. Take as in take a picture of a part. Take part. Not hysterical, admittedly, but mildly amusing. That's what you've got to do. Let's see who can come up with a beautiful way to photograph a body part that's really clever. I cannot wait to see these pictures. That's a real challenge. I expect to see some rocking work from Ingolf on that. Yep. He's got a good eye for that type of thing. I know Angie can. And yeah, Joseph, we haven't seen a single entry for you, have we? in the competition, or do you go by a strange name, one of those secret names? I'm keeping an eye on that. If we don't see some pictures pretty soon, I'll start calling you out like I just did already. Yeah, you don't want that. All right, I'm glad your pulse is good. That's always important. Yeah, Alistair's telling Harold that the pictures are over there on Discord, so we're all on the same page. What's who done wrong? Oh, yeah, Bud posted it in the Lenses and Gear channel on the 22nd of February. Well, I posted it a week later in the same place. So that's where you need to go. It's all over the place over there. Arthur, hello, greetings. I get it, Larry, that it was a joke. I tend to pick up on jokes within about half an hour, so there's nothing unusual there. Good, I'm glad you got both channels. All right, let's have a look here. What else do we have? I've got one other thing. I'm gonna show you something, and I want to tell you about something. I think I'll do the telling you about something first. Do you know that we humans are very poor judges of things like numbers and distances and things that there are things that seem like they're fairly intuitive, but they're not. They're quite misleading. And one of those things that plagues early macro photographers and actually irritates the heck out of older macro photographers who still do it is misjudging magnification on a microscope objective rig on your setup. And initially I went about taking some pictures because I wanted to show you, to give you a really graphic example of what the size translates to on a crop frame camera with a 5x objective at 5x. And it will surprise you, I think, but maybe not, maybe not. So do you think that if you had a 5x objective, a Mitutoyo, and you had it all set up at 5x magnification and you were using a crop frame camera, don't do any math here, just think about the size of a subject. What do you think would comfortably fit in the frame and make for a good composition? How about a human eye? No, it's far too big. In fact, you would be lucky if you could get the pupil of the eye, not the iris, the little black bit in the middle. That would be probably bigger than the sensor. What about a ladybird? Yeah, a ladybird. They're tiny. In fact, I just happen to have one as a demonstration, but I'll have to put it under the microscope. What you're going to see under the microscope is not actually a ladybug. That's a big green beetle, or it was. But right in the corner there he is. That's a tiny little ladybird, not a very attractive one, and his head is falling off. But these things happen. I found these out in the garden the other day. A few loose legs, don't know where they came from. We'll get them off the picture. That thing there, that little ladybird, about 1/4 of it will fit in the frame with a 5x objective. It would be about half its thickness. If you were shooting it from the side, you'd get about half its thickness if its legs were in walking position and the front half of its body, and that would be it. And people don't think that. They think, well, a ladybird, that's tiny. Let me show you something next to the ladybird, like near the ladybird. The tip of a ballpoint pen. That's not very big, is it? I mean, that's just a regular old pen. That's not some kind of clown pen. And that's the ladybird. So, I mean, we're talking a tiny little insect, but yeah, it doesn't fit on a crop frame. In fact, I was editing one just a minute ago. Let me see if I can show you. I'll have to find the picture. I know I had it up just a minute ago, but this is a different one. Excuse me 1 second while I mumble to myself. Here here we go. This is what I'm working on, which was something else I was going to tell you about anyway. So while we're here, I will. I photographed this thing that looks like a mosquito, and I was going to do a stereo thing of it because I like the shape of its head and its incredibly long proboscis. But the pictures turned out terrible, and I'm right now in the process of just salvaging it. I stacked it like this, and was planning on doing a stereo, but it didn't really lend itself to that. But there is enough good stuff in this picture, I think, with I'm halfway through retouching it, but the eyes are so beautiful, and I like the softness of the background and everything, and I can get enough sharp stuff out of the slabs, I think, to make a nice picture out of this. It is quite pretty though, isn't it? Lovely eyes. And I think it is related to the mosquito because of these Johnson's organs, if that's what they are. I wonder how Dr. Johnson felt about that when the committee told him that they were going to name these things Johnson's organ. He probably wrote a letter asking if they would just name them something else, anything else. Call it the amygdala or the hippocampus. Just don't call it Johnson's organ. But no, they did. They did. They voted him down on that. What were we over here looking for? Oh, a ladybird. That's right. Somebody, when we have moderators here, they have this shock collar thing that they put around me, and they'll just shock me back into the present. But they're not here today, so I'm on my own, which means you'll be lucky if you get a full sentence out of me. Let's see if I can find that ladybird. Big stacks this week, ladies and gentlemen. 500 plus image stacks. Some of the pictures came out very nice though. Lots and lots of stereo stuff too. Has anybody got any glasses handy? Can see that? Well, if you can, yeah, it's worth a look. 20 grand, fantastic. Thing view. Breathe, but like some of them, I don't know what. This is fun, isn't it? Watching me look for pictures. Ah, this is the ladybird is right underneath here. There it is. Okay, so this is it. I'm trying to find one that's in focus to show you. Well, no, that certainly isn't one. I've already stacked this, so there should be a finished picture somewhere. I'm shooting this from head on with the 5x objective, and it still doesn't all fit in the frame. But sideways, only about half of it does, and not the full thickness. Here we go. Well, you can just make out its head, its eye, and then it's the top of its shell. That is not cropped. That's just it right out of the camera, and you can see it's just very crowded on that frame. I mean, I love the look of the thing's head. It looks really it looks like something out of Blade Runner, doesn't it? Very grungy looking, but I might be able to salvage something out of this picture. I don't know. It's pretty rough, but you never can tell. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, the size of the sensor. Here is something that will fit on the head of this pin, which is something that we're going to be using in the next segment here, will fit only just on a crop frame camera at 5x magnification. What I suggest you do as you're getting used to your 5x objective is get one of these matte pins, stick it in your forearm, and look at it every time you get ready to put something on the stage to photograph it. And if it's bigger than that, you're not going to have room to position it. You're not going to have room to get the kind of picture you want. And if it's smaller than that, you may. So there you go. That's a useful tip. You wouldn't believe how many people will take something like this scarab beetle and put it up there with a 5x objective and think they're going to get the whole thing in. Nope, not even on a medium format camera would that work. What are we going to be talking about now? We're going to be talking about glue. And I'm going to give you some glue tips because it's something that just keeps coming up over and over again. That it doesn't matter how many times I tell people, they still don't believe me about how you use super glue in macro photography. I'm going to show you again today. I'm not deluding myself that this is the last time I'll show you. I'm sure I'll have to do it again in a week or two, but I am going to give it a shot today. Now, I'm going to give you some tips about super glue that I have learned the hard way. You don't have to learn these if you don't want to, but they'll stand you in good stead if you do. Get your glue from a hardware store or wherever, but get a decent quality glue. It makes a difference. What I use is the Bob Jones, some fella named Jones or Smith or Brown, I can't remember honestly. Yeah, he makes some glue, and I get the thin stuff and then the regular liquid, no gel, liquid, and I thin it with the thin stuff so that it's about 50-50. You can see it looks a bit water. No, you can't see. I'm looking at the wrong camera. It looks a bit watery. That's what you want, okay? You need some microscope slides to put the glue on, because the glue, you're going to be picking up a tiny amount of it. You don't want to put it on anything else, because that's another habit I had, was just putting a blob on any flat surface. And then usually within 5 minutes I would have touched that with my elbow, and whatever it was would be stuck to my elbow for the rest of the day. So just put it in one place. I have discovered that slides are the perfect place, because anytime I see a slide I think, oh, that's probably got super glue on it, and I don't touch it. You're going to need your pins, of course, but now transfer the glue to one of these little squeezy bottles that you can get at the hobby shop. They have a needle on the end, but the needle is blunt. Why do you need this? Well, the one thing you cannot afford to do when you're messing with glue around a microscope is get glue on everything. Even just the fumes of cyanoacrylate will damage the coatings on lenses. So you want to keep the glue away from your microscope, and you want as little of it in play as you can get. And seeing as you're going to be using less than a drop of glue, you want something that can dispense that amount. If you've got something that just puts a big dollop of glue out there, you're going to have all kinds of problems with it. So what I do is put one of these needle bottles, and I go for the smallest one they make. Now, there is another trick that goes with this. How do you stop this needle from getting filled up with hardened glue and not working? Because it will the first time you use it. That's what the mat pins are for. Buy some mat pins. I left my snippers in the other room, but snip the point off so that they don't have a jaggy point on the end. You want them to be blunt. And these are exactly the right size to fit down in there. You don't want them too long, because if the tip gets into the bottle, they'll get stuck in the tube there, and you don't want that. You want to be able to twist it and pull it out, and it'll give you a fresh, clean tip every time. See this thing? I left it on there as a warning to you. This thing is trouble. Just get rid of it. You don't need it. There. Just keep your glue with that in it. It'll fall out right now if I tip it upside down, but it won't after the first time you use it. It'll actually stick in there, but it'll release and come out easily. That will help you glue, though you will never put glue on a subject with this bottle. Never. That's not what the needle's for. That's to just keep it fresh. All right, so the last thing I was going to say was, oh yeah, I remember. Never have glue and don't have blue tack handy. That was probably the worst sentence of all the bad sentences I've said this year. That one gets a prize, I think. Yes, I'll rephrase it. If you're using super glue, you must have a box of blue tack handy, because otherwise, why are you using super glue? If you're using it to repair the mug you cracked this morning, you don't need the blue tack. But if you're using it for macro, you've got to have this ready, because there's nothing more frustrating than carefully pinning an insect and then having to go look for blue tack to put the pin in. And I'll show you how we do that too. In fact, I'll get a ball out and warm it up. These are tiny little balls and you won't be able to see them, so I'll take 2 of them, and to warm them up I just knead them like that and then roll them out into a little wormy shape. Most of you have already seen this before, but if you haven't, this stuff's important. This makes all the difference in the world. So there's the wormy thing that I would recommend you use. It's actually longer than it needs to be, but this will be fine. All right, so here's the tip, and this is what this is all about. To successfully glue pin a big insect like this, you want to use as little glue as you possibly can. It goes for everything, but for bigger bugs, it's more dramatic how little glue you need to pin it. Now, there's a reason for that. If you use too much glue, if you slather glue all over, and this is what literally everybody does, is they'll get a pin, they will get it dripping in super glue, and they'll oftentimes won't be able to get enough glue on it when it's just liquid, so they'll buy the gel so they can actually have a big blob they can balance on the end. And then they'll take the pin over and they'll stick it on the thingamajig, and nothing happens. The pin just wobbles around and there's a big lake of super glue that's creeping up onto the thing's face, and it's glued the wings together, and it's just a mess. It virtually never sticks like that. When you eventually get brave enough to pick the pin up off the surface, the bug just falls right off because the glue's still wet. And the glue will be wet until it's dry, and then it'll have dried on your fingers, and hope you'll never let go of the pin again. So these are all reasons that you need to do this properly, and if you do, you'll never have an issue with glue again. Now, some people, like my friend Rick, likes to use Bondic. Bondic is that liquid, probably worth showing. It's this liquid here that comes in little black tubes, and it's just it looks a bit like super glue, but it's not glue. It doesn't have any gluishness about it. It doesn't stick like glue either. It's just a plastic liquid monomer. I'm going to break my rule and use my slide to not put super glue on. See, it comes out there as a yellowy blob, and that is completely liquid, and it'll stay liquid from now until forever. I mean, for 1,000,000 years, until you shine ultraviolet light on it. And I use a pretty powerful Jacksman U1C light that puts out a lot of energy. As soon as the UV light hits that monomer, it polymerizes into a hard, clear plastic. And I mean brick hard. There's nothing liquid left in it. The problem with it is it only does this where the light energy hits it. If you put this blob on something that has a crevice, and this slips down into the crevice, if the light doesn't get to it, it's not going to polymerize. And it won't polymerize just because of proximity to stuff that has. It'll stay liquid unless it gets hit by UV. So it doesn't work like a glue. It's not good for sticking things together. It's good for making coatings on things. It's great for insulating solder lines and things like that. And Rick uses it to put a tiny drop on the insect and then set it with the pin. I don't have enough arms to do that. I just have the two, so I'm stuck with having to use this other method. So what I'm going to do is switch over to the microscope and show you under the microscope how I do this pinning thing. I hope that you'll still be able to hear me okay. So we've got this green scarab under minimum magnification. One thing you have to do is clear a way for your right hand to work underneath the microscope. You can't see my right hand, but there's the tips of the fingers. So I've got room on the right hand side of the microscope. Then position your bug so that it is in line with your index finger, if you point your index finger in that direction. In other words, a pin that you're holding like that will be along the long axis. All right, now I'm going to take a 3/0 pin just to prove that you don't need a big heavy pin. This is a very, very fine insect pin covered in enamel. And what I'm going to do is bend the tip about 1 millimeter of the tip. It really depends on the size of the bug. In fact, this is a pretty big beetle. I'm going to bend about that much, so about 3 millimeters, about 45 degrees, so that it looks like that. Okay, so the gluing surface is the underside of the L. So if you've got this bend, the glue is going to attach to the insect like this. All right, so far so good, and everybody gets this part right, the bending of the pin. Now, I'll be honest with you, if I was doing this for realsies, I would actually pin glue this. I would stick a pin into his thorax through this notch, and the pin would have glue on it. But that's kind of not the point of this demonstration. This is just to show you that a big heavy insect can be picked up with a very small pin if you use a small enough amount of glue. Now, I'm going to switch back because I do not want to, and you should really avoid, if at all possible, ever putting glue anywhere underneath the microscope except the little bit you've got on your pin. So I'll do the rest of the prep out here. All you do is take your glue, take out the pin, and put a drop. That's enough for the whole day. And if it didn't go hard, like almost immediately, you could use that for a whole day's worth of insects. Okay, so it's that blob of glue right there, the clear one. What I'm going to do is touch the pin in the glue like that, so that the bottom of it is damp. And you'll see under the microscope that it actually has, well, you won't see under the microscope unless I make it happen that way, but you'll see that there's a blob of glue on the pin. That is far too much glue. So what I recommend you do is go to the side, way off to the side is best, and touch the pin on there so the glue comes off and there's no visible glue left on the pin, and then touch it wherever it is you want the pin to stick. And if you put on too much glue, it won't stick. If you put on, I'm gonna have to look through the microscope to see to see where I'm putting this, because I'm not looking through there. If you put on the right amount of glue, it'll stick on contact. Yeah, I've got way too much glue on this. This is now up off the table, but it should have stuck like that instantly. And it would if I had less glue on it. By having some liquid left on it, it caused it to delay the set. If you can't see any of the liquid, if the thing looks dry when you touch it on the bug, it's perfect. Now, it also goes from being just enough glue to being completely dried and no longer sticky in about 5 seconds. So after you touch it on the paper, you're done. You need to stick it on the insect instantly. And now if I take it out and flip it over like so, let's switch cameras. If I take it out and just flip it over, you can see that he is supported just on that glue line that had no visible glue on it. And what's amazing is this beetle will stay on this pin just as long as you need him to. You have to, in fact, I keep many of them on their pin because I can't get the pin off. The trick is use as little glue as you possibly can. And you know what the downside is if you use too little glue and it dries, you put a bit more on and you keep going until you get it. But if you put too much on, you end up with a beetle that's just a sticky mass of super glue that's stuck to your earlobe and in your hair and all over your microscope. And yeah, it's frustrating. So I just thought I'd show you that again. Any questions? I wouldn't know because the thing's disappeared. The whole, oh, there it is. The YouTube machine is right here. So let me see. Did anybody not understand what I'm saying there about glue? Small amount. All right. Let me see. Everybody's got both ears. That's good. And what do I use to dilute the super glue? Super glue. Runny super glue. I use the pink stuff, which is the runniest, with the yellow stuff, which is the regular thickness. Liquid though. It should look like that. See how? No, you can't. You can't. You'll see it up here though. I don't like holding it over the computer either, but see how it's liquidy? It jiggles like liquid. Then you know it's right. If it's thick, it picks up too much glue. When you stick it on your bug, it remains liquid and the bug moves around. And when you try to flip it up on the pin, it just falls off sideways. It will normally, that was a terrible demonstration because it took like 10 seconds to set. But normally it's you touch it and you can pick the beetle up and go photograph it. It's that quick. All right, let me see. Allan, says John, do you have a complete list of tools, gizmos, and chemicals I use? Yes, I do. I have the most complete list of that kind of stuff that you would ever imagine possible. In fact, I have lists of stuff for almost everything. Just yesterday, I made a list of 100 essential items to go in your field macro backpack. And yeah, I did. And I'm in the process of finding out where all these things can be obtained, and I'll be making that available. And I'll do the same with this. Yes, I do have a whole shopping list of where all these little cheap bits and pieces come from so that you can do it right. Listen, I have done this with the wrong stuff every way you can imagine, and it has taken me a long time to come up with these things that work for me. They might not work for you, but they probably will. So yeah, that list will be available soon. I mean really soon. There's going to be a lot of things that haven't been available that will be available really soon. Just bear with us a little bit longer. Angie, got a picture of a ladybird taking off. Oh my goodness, yeah, they're hard to catch taking off. I've got a couple, but I've been photographing them for donkeys. I am really excited about this spring. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but at the end of the year last year, a donor donated a fantastic piece of equipment. Jan Nelson gave us an insects in flight, a high-speed trigger for photographing flying bugs. And I've been going through it and reading the literature on it and getting ready to set the thing up. And the first nice warm weekend that we have, I'm going to go up to one of the flower beds in town and set that thing up and see what we can catch with it. I can't wait. It's a glorious piece of equipment. It's lovely. So that'll be fun. Congratulations. I'll go over there and I'll look at that ladybird picture. I love those. Let me see. Phil, yeah, it is amazing they can fly, especially if this one started flying. That would be really amazing because it's been dead for a while. But yeah, there you go. Super glue does not mix with water. No. It can be cut with methyl ethyl ketone. But yeah, he's on it. He's all over it. He's got the answer all ready to go. I would not recommend trying to dilute it with a solvent. It changes the properties. What you want is pure, unadulterated cyanoacrylate. Anything else has a tendency, and you may think, well, Alan, does this work only when the bug is totally dry? No, not at all. It actually works when the bug's dirty, when the bug's wet. I will pin the bug like that so that I can then wash it, and I will use a brush. You see, I just put this down on the table. I mean, I didn't even stick it on my blob of stuff. I forgot to do it. I just laid it on the table, and it's still stuck in exactly the same position. But you can now take this and you can submerge it in soapy water. It will not come off. You can brush it with your paintbrush. It won't come off. If you use a paint roller like you'd use for the walls, it'll probably come off the pin. So use judgment. To stand your pin up, this is the harder part, if there is a hard part. Take your worm of blue tack like this that's warmed up. Pinch the bottom of it around the ball of the pin and very carefully start twisting it. You can't see it because my finger's inside the thing, but what I'm doing is I'm rolling the blue tack around the pin on itself like a spiral. Normally I can do this a lot faster because my arms are closer to my body, but you don't want him vibrating at the end of the pin too much. That will weaken the glue line. Anyway, when you get it all done like that, fold the last little bit underneath. It gives it fills in the pyramid a little bit. And this is an incredibly stable base to put them on your XYZ table or whatever you've got. You can position them in any angle and they'll stay there. You can also bend the pin, but I highly recommend you bend the pin before you glue the insect on. If you glue the insect on and then you bend the pin and for any reason let go of the pin, the insect will start to fly again. It will be gone. I flicked a weevil across my entire studio and out into the hallway. I still photographed it though because it survived. I mean, it was dead, but yeah, it survived the traumatic landing. So this way of using the little worm of blue tack is the best. It really is. I couldn't recommend it more highly. And I'll tell you, the best way to do the blue tack is to use regular blue tack, which is blue, and I left the other stuff in the other room. And one packet of that and one packet of white blue tack made by Gorilla. There. That's the last tip I'll give you on gluey stuff. 50-50 white and blue, and then spend an hour or two kneading it together. It doesn't take an hour, it takes 5 minutes. So you get a light blue, bluish green thing, and it's sticky, stretchy, but it holds position better than either one of those alone. So there you go. That's a lot of stuff I know that we've already covered before. But people just, for some reason, do not want to believe any of this. They say, now, I think my way of gluing is better than that. Audrey, bring me another gallon bottle of super glue so I can put this bee back on his pin. Oh, you should see some of the pictures of yeah, well, that that's not fair to say that. I mean, it takes a while to learn. Let me see what other comments we have going on here. What Russians built what? The Antonov A-40 tank biplane. What are we talking about that for? I'm terribly confused. Yeah, well, there you go. Angie's pointing out that ladybirds are monsters. She's absolutely right. I also photographed a ladybird larva yesterday. They're worse than their parents. Those things, they're just eating machines, and all they eat is live aphids. They just walk up to them and start eating them on the stem. They don't. It's not an excuse me, I'm hungry kind of thing. It's just start eating them. It's terrible. Yeah, nasty little creatures. So, wouldn't acetone be safer than MEK, says a proud liberal. And Joseph retorts angrily with a non sequitur, actually, about A40s, whatever they are. So, anyway, dim memory of acetone catalyzing superglue. Acetone might catalyze it, but there is a thing called superglue accelerant that comes in a brown bottle, a spray bottle, and if you spray it on superglue, it hardens instantly. But it is a very exothermic reaction, puts off a lot of heat, and it stinks, and it will damage your bug. It's also oily, and once it gets on the bug, you can't get it off. So don't even buy any unless you're planning on sticking other things with the super glue. I don't use it. If you're going to buy anything with your super glue, buy some super glue dissolving liquid. I don't know what's in it. It might be MEK for all I know, but that stuff will break the bond if you glue your fingers together, which I do fairly regularly. Yeah, because you don't want to have to cut them off. Not that you do that just for super glue on them. So I don't use the UV-CA glue on the bug. I do not know of any UV-CA glue. The stuff I was using here was no, I don't use the Bondic is the name of it. That's what I was trying to remember. Bondic is not a glue. It is not an adhesive. If you slathered it on two sides, pieces of glass and stuck it together and shone the light on it, or took it outside, the UV would set it then and it would hold the glass together. But it's more for covering things and putting a coating on things than it is for gluing them together. I use super glue, and super glue isn't affected by UV light. In fact, I think it might be weakened by UV light, but I'm not exactly sure. So yeah, no, I don't use it. The reason I was mentioning it was Rick uses it, and he's very deft with it, but I'm not. Because of needing a hand for the bug, a hand for the Bondic, and then a hand for the light. Yeah, I'm just run out of hands. So, you posted two of the takeoff pictures of the Beetle. Excellent. Yes, I will look at that, definitely. And Joseph explains why we're talking about tanks, because I was completely confused by that. But apparently, ladybirds look like tanks. You know what they look like to me? All beetles look like Thunderbird number 2, the big green one. Did anybody else watch Thunderbirds Are Go? I think it might have been just an English thing that they tricked us into believing that this was what people in America watched. But yeah, I like Thunderbird number 2 was the big green one that looked like a transporter. Yeah. I can't believe I remember that. Number 3 was the one that went underwater, if I remember rightly. That might have been number 4, though. Casey, Stacy, what was his name? Anybody know? There won't be a prize. Oh, there is a prize for the body parts competition this month. It's a lens. Yeah, it's a 50mm f2.0. It's an old Nikon lens, the kind of lens that was made for using on slide duplicators but it's also a lovely macro lens when reversed. So if you want to win that, you have to photograph an earlobe or a fingertip or a toe or something. Yeah, and turn it in and you might win. Let me see. Oh, Patrick just super chatted me. This is a good thing, this super chat. I like this. It's where you you pay money and I answer a question. It gets my attention, but there's no question. So yeah, that's the best kind of super chat right there. All right, Joseph. Loctite has several UV cured CA products. Very good. Okay, I didn't know that. Loctite is actually my second favorite glue. I like it because it's just high quality. It always does the same thing. But that's good to know that they have a UV curing one. I'll look into that actually. Yeah, Andersons. That's right. It was gosh, can't remember their names. They awful puppet things they were. That didn't look realistic at all. I can't believe I fell for it. They were on strings and you could see the strings. Yeah, well, yeah, I was a bit younger, mind you. They tried to get you on the Thunderbirds, but we rejected it. Yeah, and so you should. Oh, did that? Yeah. 4 was the... No, 1 was the rocket ship that went out into space. 5 was the submersible. That's right. No, 4 was the submersible. 5 was the space station. Ah, oh, dearie me. How many brain cells did I lose watching that program, I wonder? Probably quite a few. Does anybody know if Elon Musk's rocket went off into space today? I hear it was a 3D printed rocket, which is a first. If it did, yeah, I hope it did. I hope everything went well. And it appears I have stirred up a bit of interest in the Thunderbirds here. We've got people coming out of the woodwork. Arctic Timberwolf is a Thunderbirds fan, apparently. Well, I'm glad to hear that. From Wisconsin, too. So, America it is. All right. Thunderbirds used to be shown on one of the UHF channels in the early 70s in Michigan. Well, I didn't see it there. I saw it in Sussex in the UK. And I loved it. Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Brilliant. And I think we're about done. Yeah, it's after 3 o'clock already. You know, time flies when I am just yakking my head off like this. Did we cover everything? Did I tell you that Zerine is not $189 a month? It's $189 forever. Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about everything on my list for a change. Yeah. Did I answer all the questions? Super marionation. Is that what they called the puppets? I just thought they were puppets. Yeah. There you go. Super marionation. I'll buy that. Angie soaked a large beetle like the green one I showed tonight in water to loosen limbs, and now it stinks. Oh, yeah. You if you wet it, it will start to rot for sure. You can put a little phenol in the water. First of all, let me go back. Don't limber up its limbs by wetting it completely. Put it in a moistening chamber, a chamber where you just have a pan of water with a rack above it, and put your insect on that and just let it sit there and soak up some moisture. Put a little phenol or anything with phenol in it in the water, and that will prevent mold from forming. It'll also retard some of the bacterial growth. And then position the limbs and then dry it again. Just leave it to dry with the limbs in position, and it won't smell. It'll just immediately dry again because the joints will limber up before the rest of the bug gets soaked. If you do it in water, the whole thing gets soaked through and it starts to rot almost immediately. And now as you've soaked it, it needs to be stored wet. So yeah, alcohol. Use 91% isopropyl alcohol, and that will kill off the bloating bacteria that are eating it. Yeah, I should have. Yeah, that's a good point. You never want to get them that wet, because they will stink. All right, I've got whole videos on that, series of videos on prepping bugs and how to relax. In fact, I've got one of my favorite pieces of album artwork was how to relax a bug, and it's got a bug in a hammock having a cocktail or something. So yeah, that's got everything you need to know about relaxing insects in it. How to relax a commercially purchased insect. All right, let me see. Have I left anything? Oh, so you've since learned the mistake. Okay, good. All right, I think we got it. The 3D rocket was not. Oh, whoops, I put my foot in it there. Whose rocket was it? I don't know. So, I don't follow rockets. I don't know anything about them. But somebody blasted a rocket off this morning, right? I hope so. Yeah, I'm not good on space, I'm afraid. What is the largest aperture I use for focus stacking? Walter asks. Are you still here, Walter? I hope so. I will answer that. It depends on the lens, of course, because there are some lenses that can tolerate having a wider aperture than others. The problem is when you get down to 2.8 with your macro lens, it tends to introduce what little lens aberration you're going to see with those lenses will be at those wide open apertures. So I like to keep it so that I can get a bit of depth of field. I seldom ever go below or wider than f4. Usually f5.6 seems to be the sweet spot for most of my glass. So yeah, I never shoot wide open. How big is the magnification on my microscope? It is 6.3. Yeah, 6.3. Sorry, with a 10. 63x. Yeah. With maximum magnification. Yeah. If you have a stereo microscope, it often won't tell you what the magnification is. You have to figure it out because you've got eyepieces and then the focusing body and then usually a camera tube, and all of these things add or subtract a little bit of magnification, including the objective lens, which is on the bottom. Most of them are 1 times, but I have a half times objective lens. So you have to do the math and it comes out with a number that's your actual magnification. There is a better way of doing it, and that is to actually just look at a ruler and you know roughly what your field size is, and you can figure out what the magnification is. That's what I would recommend. Okay, I am going to wrap it up unless there is any last question. Oh, I'm sorry. Walter was asking what is the smallest aperture I use for focus stacking. I don't know how I misread that question. It's about the same, 5.6. Very rarely will I go above that, but there's no reason to. For focus stacking, why? I mean, I go with the sharpest aperture for that glass because I can take as many pictures as I want. So there's no reason to push it and get more depth of field. I hope that answers the question. Let me see. Yeah, Angie's bug still stinks. Put it in some Dettol. You have Dettol still over there? That's got phenol in it. That ought to clear it up. But if you dehydrate it, yeah, it might just rot though at this point. You may have permanently done yourself in with that one. Yeah, keep it in alcohol. That'll do it. That'll do it. That way you only have to smell it when you take it out. Don't drink the alcohol though. It'll taste terrible. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. Is there anybody got any questions I didn't answer? No, you guys are just chatting amongst yourselves, so I'll let you have at it. And I'm going to say farewell. This weekend is, there's no presume this weekend for Patreon folks. There is now a calendar that is kind of clunky and cumbersome, and it's on Discord and it's on Patreon, and I will update it each week. But there is something better coming. That's another one of the things that's coming your way, is an automatically updated calendar that will have everything on it, so that you'll know every day where you can catch up with me, or what is going on, or what I'm working on, that type of thing. So thank you very much for coming and giving me an hour of your day like this. It is the high point of my week, so I'm glad you came. It's great to have everybody here, and I will see you, if not before, on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time in the US for Macro Talk 1. That's the other one. See you then. Take care, be well, and thank you for those who super chatted me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.